Elizabeth Cady Stanton, an independent girl. In 1826, Elizabeth Cady was 11 years old. At that time, women had few rights under the law. They couldn't vote, own land, go to college, or hold professional jobs such as doctors or lawyers. Father, why can't women vote? Because the law says so. How can we change the law? Only men who are lawmakers can do that. That is not fair. That year, Elizabeth's brother, Eleazar, died. He was only 20 years old. What would I do without my only son? Oh, my daughter, I wish you were a boy. I would try to be all my brother was. At age 15, Elizabeth finished school. She earned grades as high as any boy in her class. Father, I want to go to college, like Eleazar did. Women don't go to college. You should learn to keep house, cook, and care for children. I want to do more. I want to read books and learn about the world. School was fine when you were a girl, but now you must be a proper young lady. Later, Daniel allowed Elizabeth to attend the Troy Female Seminar. It was only one of the few schools where girls could continue their educations. After Elizabeth graduated from Troy, she often visited her cousin Gary Smith. It is unfair for men to own another man. Many African Americans were owned as slaves. Smith was an abolitionist who worked to free slaves. Slaves have no rights under the law. They cannot even vote. Women also have no legal rights, but that doesn't seem to bother this man. In 1839, Elizabeth met an abolitionist lawyer named Harry Stanton. Harry and Elizabeth fell in love and planned to marry, but Elizabeth's father didn't approve. Abolitionists don't make enough money to support a family. He's a brave man, fighting to free the slaves. I forbid you to marry him. I love you, Harry, but my father isn't ready for me to marry. I can't bear to be away from you that long. I'll marry you. Father will just have to understand. But I'm going to the World Anti-Slavery Convention. It's London, England. I will be gone at least 8 months. Harry and Elizabeth married in May 1840. Soon after the wedding, they sailed to London. Before the convention, Harry and Elizabeth met with other abolitionists to London. One of these people was Lucretia Mott. We must convince the world how unfair it is for one person to own another. I could speak in front of groups of people just like Lucret does. When Elizabeth and Lucret arrived at the convention, they and the other women were forced to sit behind the curtains. Slaves deserve the same rights as all other men. I can't believe these men are ignoring rights for women. When we get back to America, you and I will work together for the women's rights. A wife and a mother. In 1847, the Stantons moved to Seneca Falls, New York. Harry traveled often on business. Elizabeth stayed home with their growing family. I love my children, but I miss my friends. I long to talk with an adult. A year later, Elizabeth again saw her friend, Lucret Mott. They met with several other women to talk about women's rights. I now understand how badly women need more rights. How true women aren't allowed to own property, and most college and professionals are close to us. People think women are only able to cook and clean and care for children. It is up to us to change the rules. Why not call a convention now? We have waited long enough. Elizabeth and her friends planned a women's rights convention in Seneca Falls. Let's add that women should be allowed to vote. But Elizabeth, you'll make us look ridiculous. Elizabeth wrote down all the rights that the group believed women should have. They called the list the Declaration of Sentiments. Voting is the most important right of all. How can women be equal to men if we can't help make the laws that govern us? On July 19, 1848, about 300 people met in the Westland Chapel in Seneca Falls for the convention. There is. Elizabeth read the Declaration of Sentiments. We now demand our rights to vote according to the declaration under which we live. The right is ours. Have it we must. Use it we will. Mr. Stanton believes women should vote. She's a good person, but she's gone too far this time. Elizabeth won her first victory in 1848. The state of New York passed a law that allowed married women to own property. Elizabeth hoped to continue writing and delivering speeches for women's rights, but her plans were interrupted when she had 2 more babies. I wish I had more time for my writing. I'm telling Mama, that's mine. No, it's mine. In 1851, Elizabeth's friend Amelia Bloomer introduced her to Susan B. Anthony. All three women were interested in women's rights. Elizabeth, I would like you to meet Susan Anthony. I would like that. Miss Anthony, I saw you early at the abolitionist meeting. We must get together soon. Elizabeth and Susan quickly became good friends. We will make great partners in the fight for women's rights, Susan. But I have no one to take care of the children while I travel. We'll have to wait until they are old. That is true. You write such wonderful speeches. I can't wait to share your words with everyone. Over the next few years, Elizabeth had two more children. She waited until her children had gone to bed to write letters and speeches. Susan, I have great plans for the year 1860. My mother will take care of the children while I travel. I am so glad to hear your news. The suffrage movement needs you. Women should vote. By 1861, Americans were fighting the Civil War. Slavery was one of the causes of the war. People in southern states wanted slaves to expand into new states. Northerners were against the spread of slavery. At first, Elizabeth spoke about the rights for both slaves and women. Think about the wrong done too. That one long, friendless slave who was stolen from his African hut and given to the African slaver. In 1865, the North won the war. The 13th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution freed all slaves. Elizabeth believed women would receive the same rights as the free slaves. But the amendment didn't include rights for women. We still have work to do. Slaves deserve the same rights as other Americans. We can only fight one battle at a time, Mr. Stanton. What about the woman? When will we enjoy these rights? Elizabeth and Susan worked to change the laws that apply to women. You can't be serious. You're interested in your petition. We're trying to put a divided country back together. We have 10,000 signatures here. All these people agree the women should have the right to vote. But nothing stopped Elizabeth and Susan from working from women's suffragists in July 1867. They traveled to Kansas. I'm so happy that Kansas is considering giving women the vote. Yes, we have a great opportunity. We must not waste it. Elizabeth and Susan traveled separately across Kansas for 3 months. Each stopped in 2 or 3 places every day to speak to groups about suffrage. I look forward to the time when all men and women, black and white, should stand equal before the law. Sometimes Elizabeth and Susan traveled together. They spoke to crowds both large and small. The civilized world awaited your actions to see if the principles of our father are possible in government. In November, Kansas voted on the suffrage for women and African American. Neither law passed. I'm disappointed, but we just have to work even harder. You're right. Kansas was the first state to vote on women's suffrage, but it won't be the last. In 1868, the 14th Amendment passed. This law said that all men born in the United States had the right to vote. What about rights for women? My question is, do you believe that African race is composed entirely of male? This time belongs to the free slaves. The time for women will come. Some southern states still try to keep African Americans men from voting. Lawmakers then proposed that 15th Amendment. It said that the right to vote could be based on a person's skin color, but it said nothing about a person's sex. Mr. Stanton, I can't believe that you are against this law. The idea behind the amendment is good, but women need the right to vote just as much as the free slaves do. Many people were angry with Elizabeth for opposing the 15th Amendment. In 1869, the women's suffrage movement split over these differences. Elizabeth led one group, Lucy Stone led the other. The 15th Amendment is a great step towards equal rights for all people. Yes, Lucy, but what about women? Don't we deserve the same rights? Of course, but all things take time. If we don't demand our rights now, they'll keep passing us by. Elizabeth and Susan later wrote their own amendment to the Constitution. They gathered signatures of people who agree with their ideas. They brought the signatures to the U.S. Senate. Ladies, when will you accept that men are better at making decisions than women? I would never accept it. As Elizabeth got older, many people thought her views became more extreme. Sometimes even Susan disagreed with her. You see, suffrage only What about other ways women are mistreated? The law says men can beat their wives or take their children from them. Stick to the issue. Stick to both. In 1888, Susan and Elizabeth held the International Council of Women. People from 8 countries discussed women's rights at that meeting. President Grover Cleveland even invited the group to the White House to celebrate. Just look at how far we've come. Some states now allow women to own property, and many women have better jobs and working conditions. We've made a progress, Susan, but there is still so much left to do. At age 76, Elizabeth gave her last major speech. She spoke to the U.S. Senate Committee on Women's Suffrage. Nothing straightens the judgment, and quickly the consciousness like individual responsibility. The responsibility of life rests equal on men and women. After her speech, Elizabeth spoke to Senate Zebulon Venice on North Carolina. Mr. Stanton, if your logic supports any other proposed law, it could help us pass. If you really mean what you said, Senator, you'll support giving women the vote. Elizabeth Legacy. In 1895, many people joined Elizabeth's family and friends in celebrating her 80th birthday at Metropolitan's Opera House in New York City. I declared November 12 to be Stanton Day in the city of New York. Congratulations, hooray! 3 cheers for Elizabeth. Even at that age, 80 and nearly blind, Elizabeth continued to work for women's rights. She wrote books and articles that support the cause. Elizabeth died October 26, 1902, at the age of 86. No one was more upset by her death than Susan. Any comments, Miss Anthony? I'm too crushed to say much. I already feel lonesome without her. After Elizabeth died, Elizabeth's daughter Harriet and granddaughter Nora continued the work for women's suffrage. Other women also joined the fight. In 1920, the 19th Amendment passed. This law, which was written by Susan and Elizabeth in the 1970s, gave women the right to vote. Nora, I wish your grandmother was here. This day would have been the happiest of her life. Even though Elizabeth didn't live to see the 19th Amendment, her passion, her speeches, and her writing all helped pave the way for the important law.